When we started the center, when we start, it's not very high. Is it high now? Is it? Oh, I can't hear it. It's just me. Okay. When we started at the center, we had to start to encapsulate. So it took like 12 years to really encapsulate. So, I mean, it looks like this. This is what we teach you to get to Nibbana. And it's like people will giggle and say, really? Yeah, this is it. And then there's 2 other pages to it, and that's about it, okay? But we were trying to figure out what is the bare minimum that a farmer would have needed to be able to become a Sotapanna, because people were going and becoming Sotapannas, you know. So it was a game of figuring out, what is he teaching that makes this move fast? Is it Bhante? It's really just the texts, but how is it being put together in a specific way so that it all connects and begins to work? That was what fascinated me. We had things in common. He came first course for 12 and a half years, and then I show up and I had the same questions. What did the Buddha do? And if he did something about suffering, what did he find? And if he found something, were the instructions still there? And if they were, could you do it too today? Or was it isolated to just that time and culture and everything else? So when you look at this, it's clear that all the traditions kept one chant amongst all chants, synonymous in every tradition. It was Sanditiko, Akaliko, Eipasiko, Opanaiko, Pachitam, Veditabo, Wanuiti. Okay? And what it meant was what he taught was easy to understand. It was immediately effective here and now. Not in 10 years or 20 years, but really it was immediately going to change you here and now. This is what he bumped into. So it was easy to understand, immediately effective. It invited deeper inspection. That was the come and see. It's been whittled down over the centuries to finally just, hey, come and see. But it doesn't mean that. It means if you get really interested, if you're doing what he was doing, it got so interesting, come and see deeper inspection. And the last one, where am I going? Let's see, you remember the last one? You can repeat it too. It's like, let's say, easy to understand, immediately effective, here and now, inviting inspection. Oh, untouched by time. Yeah, Karuna Dasa made a big deal. Professor Karuna Dasa made a big deal. We forget to say that means untouched by time. That's your guarantee for your product. It's still good. It'll still work today as it did back then. So what we came up with was, when you're doing meditation, you're doing it for a particular reason, to understand completely the Four Noble Truths, dependent origination, and the 3 characteristics. Stop there for a minute. 3 characteristics should be here too. And the 3 characteristics by themselves, if you learn them, you will never understand, not necessarily understand dependent origination. And dependent origination comes out to be the spine of the teaching. So without the spine, you just have a sack to shake, but you don't have the teaching. The other thing that bothered me was that when you talk about the 4 parts of the, I think I already mentioned to you, the 4 parts of the progress chart. You see, the progress chart was being measured not by just your practice and what you see and experience this way, but how much of the Dhamma you actually understand. So when we look at why aren't they talking about this, well, one thing is this one gets written off a lot, the Four Noble Truths. What were they? They weren't just a set of information to explain to you, this is the outline of Buddhism. This is what Buddhism was. It was the Four Noble Truths. The Four Noble Truths had 4 functions that once you get into the text, you begin to see vividly these had 4 particular purposes. Only in the end did they become the outline of Buddhism. So what were they? Well, if we go into the Samyutta Nikaya and we go to the dependent origination book, the Nidana you're going to see how did he discover dependent origination before he saw it. Because he tells them when I was still a bodhisattva, before I was enlightened, when I was still a bodhisattva, the world was in big trouble. And I decided this death was a really bad thing I saw. So what was the cause of that? And he finds birth, and then he says, what was the cause of birth? And he finds bhava, and then he goes backwards. That's how he did it. So it was an investigation that he did. When he did that, he was looking at the problem, death, right? That's a suffering. And he was hunting for the cause, right? The cause. So he was using it as a system for investigation. In another part of that book, there is a title of a sutta called The Investigation that is just a couple paragraphs long that simply explains to you that he was investigating a investigative path, a schematic plan for his investigation by what is the problem, what is the cause, what is the solution, there must be a path to this. So he's using that, you see. Then there's another place where it talks about how he uses this in the suttas. I got curious one winter. I was someplace where there was snow, and I got, inside for a long time. So I just said to Bhante, I wonder if the Four Noble Truths are in this framework of the suttas themselves. So when I went in the suttas we'd gone through lots of times and shuffled through, here's the first one, the second one, the third one, the first one, the second one, the third one. What does that mean? That means he used it for his investigation path. He used it for his teaching method. This was a teaching method that he was using. Then he used it as a public speaking and all that stuff when he was doing, not just when he was doing his the suttas themselves, but the teaching method and investigation method. There you have 2 of them, and you have the outline. That's the third one. Okay, and the fourth one, when he visits the villages and the towns, and we call him the great peacemaker, the master peacemaker. How come? Because he uses these in every situation with the Kasambians and with the monks and with the Kalamas and everybody as the solution to the problem. This is your problem. What is the cause? What is the solution? Here's what you do. You see how methodical he was? So the Four Noble Truths are really cool. The 3 characteristics are vitally important, but if you learn the 3 characteristics, you don't get to learn dependent origination. But if you learn dependent origination, the catch is you always get to learn all 3 of the characteristics. Isn't that funny? It's true. In the Mahavagga, there's a statement about you can learn the 3 characteristics, but not know this. And in the progress report, you had to have 2 parts. You had to have this meditation, the method of observation to learn everything internally, but you also had to have the internal part. You had to have the meditation, but you had to have the knowledge of the Dhamma. So when we say, pleasant meditation with clear comprehension of the Dhamma, that was the one that was excellent progress. The others weren't, okay? It was always the pleasant meditation without pain, the pleasant meditation with quick comprehension of the Dhamma is what they say, okay? So there were those 4 parts of the progress chart. So that was really neat that this was being used that way. You have the 37 requisites of awakening, which he made me memorize in a car while I was driving him across the country, about 18,000 miles once. Okay, the next year I had to do it in Pali. It was funny. Okay, so then you have those requisites, which are in different groups and everything. Do you all know the requisites, or you know about the requisites, kind of? Okay, so these requisites are 4 foundations of mindfulness, of course. And then there's 4 steps of right effort. Oh my, that's right there. 4 steps of right effort. And then you had the 5 faculties. I did this in the order that it actually happens. The 5 faculties, which were the energy, faith, energy, mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom. Then the 4 bases of spiritual power. That comes from Majjhima Nikaya number 77, okay, in section 17. That's where you're developing the basis of spiritual power, consisting of 1 is develops the basis of spiritual power consisting of productive concentration, developing productive concentration. The next one is that's the first one, due to zeal, due to your enthusiasm is what's emphasizing why you want to learn it. The second one is due to energy. The third one is due to purity of mind. The 4th one is due to your investigation and determined striving to learn it. Striving to learn it, okay, is what it means, and experience it. The next one was the 5 powers, and we said earlier the 5 faculties turn into 5 powers. Why are they powers? Because then they turn into, automatically, they're balancing themselves. And the 7 factors of awakening are real important, because in the deeper states we find that you can't finish the path unless these 7 enlightenment factors come up in balance so you can fall off the final level. But they have a lot to do with all of the levels that you work with, that you learn, you're passing through. Okay, and so these are mindfulness, and then you say, we do this usually like this, when we talk about them. We usually say, here's the mindfulness, and then you have this, seesaw, and this is the investigation, the energy, and joy, and the other side of it is the tranquility and the balanced concentration. So we'll just put a C there, concentration, okay? And then the last one is, equanimity, the equa, okay? And this is going like this. It's going like this the whole time you're training. It's going like this. And it's more like if I could do this with the mic. Well, I don't know if I can do it with the mic, but, if you took it like this and you said it's more like going like this and it just won't get balanced, these 7 pieces, and then all of a sudden it goes like that. And it just gets all balanced. And it reminds me of the early computer games where you had to get everything so it stopped and then it went into the next level. I don't play games anymore, but the kids used to do that. Okay. So and then you have the 5, what is the person? And we tell you something very basic about the person is the 5 aggregates, body, feeling, perception, thoughts, and consciousness. That's what you're composed of. Then we talk to you about 6 sense doors that you all know about. Your eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and body experiencing the outside world, and your mind experiencing the inside world, right? Then we talk about the 3 kinds of feeling that come up, and from the really beginning with training with us, you're learning about dependent origination because we're explaining to you how things are operating. The whole thing about this is you're learning how everything works. So the fear of everything disappears, just goes away. Okay, because you begin to understand how this whole mechanism of this experience in this existence is working. Then you have the 3 kinds of feeling. We can talk to you about 128 if you want, but but that's not the point. You only need to know 3, and 5 is acceptable, because you say pleasant and painful, or pleasant, painful, neutral. But then you can go pleasant, painful body, pleasant, painful mind, and neutral, and you got 5. That'll do. You don't have to get off the deep end with the numbers. The multiplications of numbers in Abhidhamma shouldn't frighten you if you do want to look at it someday. But my suggestion is learn the practice, then look at it. Don't look at it and then try to practice. Because in, for instance, Mahasi Center, there used to be a monk that stood by the gate with a bucket. And when you came to Mahasi Center, I've heard this story from not just Bhante, other monks. When you came to the gate to go in when you were getting your degree in college and you had to do your meditation requirement, you were told at the gate, put your Abhidhamma in the bucket and leave it at the gate, then come in and do your meditation requirement. When you go out, you can pick it up again, because it isn't going to help you. It's only going to make you sit there and say, I have a feeling. Is it number 1, 12, 36, or 58? What is it? And you don't need to do that, okay? And I don't know. The thing about it was, you can believe the stories about it or not, but one monk said something very interesting to me in Sri Lanka. He said, I think when the Buddha went to heaven and taught the Abhidhamma to his mother, I think because she was in a Deva realm, she understood. And it made me smile, because a lot of people have a lot of trouble with this now. And when I was working in this Sunday school in Sri Lanka. It was a very interesting thing. I spent a day with an 87-year-old teacher of Abhidhamma, and it was wonderful. But when I went there to that Sunday school, they gave me the responsibility to teach Abhidhamma, and it was horrible, And so there used to be an art to teaching Abhidhamma, and I just think it's not there anymore, And the woman told me, the director, we always choose the person who doesn't know anything, and we give them that responsibility. And I'm there, gee, thanks, that was good. But I just tried to follow the book. But are we teaching you Abhidhamma? Of course we are, but we're only teaching you what you need to know. You see, that's the thing. So now you look at how we're supposed to be learning Buddhism. This is everybody now. Everybody should be learning this way. Dana, Sila, Bhavana comes first. Okay? Dana is generosity. But generosity doesn't mean I want money. It doesn't mean that. Generosity is kind thoughts, kind words, and kind actions. Generosity flowing from you, actions of thoughts, words, and deeds in everything you do, everywhere you go. That's what the Dana was about, okay? The second one is the Sila. The Sila is the protection for you that you learn at the very beginning. Your precepts are protecting you from the damage of your hindrances coming up. If you're keeping your precepts in life, the hindrances aren't going to come up so much. If you break them, then you have to forgive yourself, take the precepts again, and come back and try again. The Bhavana is interesting. Bhavana is a word that means development of mind. Usually we translate it that way. But then a couple years ago, I was teaching it as 5 years ago, I was teaching it as in a presentation of dependent origination as meaning development of behavior, because I was seeing the change in our students' behavior. Then the head of the Pali department at Paradinia University, Dr. Pramasiri, picked it up when he went to America, and he probably didn't pick it up from me. He probably just figured it out himself. Because Bhavana can also be translated to mean development of behavior. And when we look at what the Buddha was doing in the beginning, that's what he was doing. He was trying to get everybody a way to stop suffering, stop war, everybody get along with everyone, help one another. He was trying to figure out a way to teach people a way to change their behavior. It was as he said in his talks in America, I heard them on the YouTube when he came back, it was an effort for behavior modification through Buddhism. That's what it was. And that was the end result. When you listen to the end result, I don't think he'll do this, so maybe I'll just read it to you now, because I don't want to do something he's going to do, but I really don't think he's going to do it for 2 days here, but I can read this to you. We were hunting for a closing sutta, and we like to use this because this is a sutta that was directed to the monks, explaining to them what was expected of them as a result of their practices in the meditation school that he was running. This is what he expected them to develop. There are 5 courses of speech. Let me do this here. There are 5 courses of speech that others may use when they address you. Their speech may be timely or untimely, true or untrue, gentle or harsh, connected with good or with harm, spoken with a mind of loving kindness or with inner hate. When others address you, they may speak to you in a timely or untimely manner. The speech may be true or untrue. And when others speak to you, their speech may be gentle or harsh. And when others address you, their speech may be connected with good or with harm. Their speech may be spoken with a mind of loving kindness or with inner hatred. But herein, monks, you should train thus. Our minds will remain unaffected, and we will utter no evil words. We shall abide compassionate for their welfare, with a mind of loving kindness, without inner hate, and we shall abide pervading that person in front of you, the one that's in front of you, right then and there, with a mind imbued with loving kindness, and starting with him or her, we shall abide pervading the all-encompassing world with a mind similar, all-encompassing world with a mind similar to a catskin bag, abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility, without ill will. And that is how you should train. So he was basically telling them, our minds will remain unaffected. We shall utter no evil words. We shall abide compassionate for their welfare, with the mind of loving kindness, without any inner hate. Forgiving them, right there. Forgiving them. Why? Why? Why not? Isn't it the truth? You have a life continuum line I showed you. You just went past it. Why? You're always moving. Why not? Oh, I want to store it in the back of my mind. I need a headache next week. Ouch. No, you don't need the headache next week. You don't need the soreness in your limbs. Thank you. In your limbs. You don't need the soreness in your limbs. You don't need your muscles to be sore. You don't need to carry what happened. It's time to let it go. We shall abide pervading them with a mind imbued with loving kindness, and starting with them, we shall abide pervading the all-encompassing world with a mind imbued with loving kindness, abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility and without ill will. That is how you should train. That's what you're learning. That's what you're practicing for. That's what you're trying to train your mind to do automatically. Let go. What's the point? So he was mean to you last week. So he screamed at you. Okay, maybe his dog died a few days before. I don't know. I don't know what the person did. I don't know about the person. Do you know about the person's life? The last one that made you really mad? Do you know? You know, that's the thing. I said to somebody, a guy comes in your office, this Indian chief, he once told me, I was working with the tribes for about 2 years. And he's a medicine man. He came in, he said, just off the top of his head, he walked in and he said, I never told you this, but if anybody ever yells at you, always remember they're yelling at themselves. And I just flipped out. I said, what? I was having a lot of problems. And he said, what? I said, what? And he said, no, they're always talking about themselves. They're not talking about you. I don't care if it's your husband. I don't care who it is. Something is wrong. We're not naturally like that. You see? Something's going on. Do you know the person? Have you been in their shoes? Do you know what their life is like? Probably not if you're working in a company or something, And the best thing is to take them to get ice cream. And he said, I was in, Mexican country, you go to some place where it's Spanish, you have to tell them to go get coffee. And you come over to Asia, you got to tell them to go get tea. But at home, I just tell them to go get ice cream. Sit down, have your ice cream, and talk about what's really going on. Because it isn't about you. That's the whole thing. So the bhavana, that's what the practice actually is. And the change that happens in the person is happening from the 6 R's, or the tranquil wisdom insight meditation. It's just right effort. Let's just talk about what it is. So the next thing is the Sila, Samadhi, Panna. So the Sila, what happens with the Sila is it gets wrapped up, this part, the Sila and the Dhamma and the Sila keeps going, but it's this part here. So the Sila is this one now. And this is going to keep going. The Bhavana is going to continue on and develop. And you're going into Samadhi, Panna. So, okay, Samadhi is tranquil. This one can be translated this way, tranquil. And then this one's wisdom. That's where the name came from for TWIM, tranquil wisdom, but we're having insights all the time. There's a funny story about Bhante, because the first year on the mountain, he kept telling us all the time, I'm not a Vipassana teacher. It was really funny. And we all listened to that. Every time he gave a Dhamma talk, he said, I'm not a Vipassana teacher. And then one time, about a year into this, he comes into the kitchen, and we're sitting there for breakfast, and he comes up to the table, he says, I have something to tell you. And I said, what? We're 6 of us sitting there looking at him, and he says, I am a Vipassana teacher. And of course, one of the guys went, no, you're not a Vipassana teacher. And he said, no, let me ask you something. Have you had any insights since you've been with me? Since you've been here on the mountain? Have you had any insights happening? And then we went into, well, yeah, we know about this and what it's for, and we know how that works, and we know about this, and we know about all these things. And then he went through the different insights that happened in the program, and a lot of the things that were in the Mahasi program, we knew the insights, we understood them perfectly, but we were learning them a different way. That's all, we were just learning. He wasn't telling us we were learning them, okay? So then the Panna, Panna is wisdom, but there's 2 steps to wisdom in Buddhism. The first step is called knowledge. And vision. So this is important because this is actually a step in this sutta that's called the Upanisa Sutta. And the Upanisa Sutta is like there's 12 pieces in the dependent origination, there's 12 links, but there's 23 links in the Upanisa Sutta about the dependent origination. So it's a development line that shows the 12 links and then how you actually learn to let go of the suffering in the other 11 links. So I was very cocky. I went to the door and said, I know the 12 links. And he said, oh, that's great. He turned his back, got a little book and said, now learn the 23. I walked away to learn the 23. Okay, so you have knowledge and vision. And this one is like the foundation stone for you to then go up and develop the knowledge and wisdom. But you have to, the whole principle of this meditation school that he was operating, and it was like a gypsy wagon going around India, but it was run by him and really by Sariputta and Moggallana. Sariputta was the mother. He brought you in, put you in your robes, taught you about your bowl, everything. And then he taught you the basics and took you to the fourth jhana using Anapana, probably Anapana. That's the entrance calming one. Then Moggallana gets a hold of you, and Moggallana is the nurse. And he's going to take you the rest of the way down the path. So it's not like he's going to hold your hand. He's going to be the standby reference person, and Kohita and Kassapa and some of the others. But that's how the school was set up. And everything depended on knowledge and vision. There's some places where the monks had to leave because they didn't want to do it this way, and they didn't want to practice the vision first, but they wanted the wisdom. There's also always somebody who shows up who wants the wisdom in a box for $19.95. They don't want to do any work, but I want to have it given to me. I can't give it to you. You're the teacher. You're actually the one that's going to do this, okay? So you have to do the work for it, but it's fun. It's a lot of fun. Okay, then you have the 5 precepts, the 5 hindrances. By the text guide, is what I mean by that is there's not just 5. You can probably find about 36 or 37 of them. When you break them all down, everything that can possibly happen to you in a meditation session. The Buddha keeps talking about this in various suttas, and it comes 16 here, 14 there, 11 there, which are the components of the 5 tripping out. Now we're going to do one more thing before I quit today. With the Eightfold Path, I wanted you to see how this works, because I didn't think he was going to do it, because he said he didn't have time, but it only takes 5 minutes to do this, so I can do it. So, can you have the whole entire Eightfold Path happen in a smile? I had a class of 12 women, and they were supposed to practice the Eightfold Path for a week, and we had the class on the Eightfold Path. And I told them to tell me the next class how they did. And, they were sort of fooling around, saying, I worked hard this week, I didn't have time, I only sat twice. Yeah, I sort of did. And somebody would say, well, I realized the Eightfold Path, and I did it a couple times, maybe 3 times. So they were all saying, like, wishy-washy. They didn't really practice the Eightfold Path. And there was one last woman sitting there almost crying because she was the last one. And she looks at me and she said, I didn't have any time at all. And I said, what do you do for a living? I'm a customer service representative. And I said, you're a customer service representative. Okay, let's just examine this for just a minute, okay? You're a customer service representative. Do you smile while you're a customer service representative? Oh yeah, I smile all day long. Every time you bring something back to me, I smile through every problem you have all week long. And I said, well, let's see what you did when you were smiling. So when you're smiling, you're completing the Eightfold Path. Can I complete the Eightfold Path? I can do that.
Since this is a real popular sutta, I thought I would give it to you with some commentary that you've never heard before. And this is the Satipatthana Suta. Now, this is the sutta that people that do straight vipassana, they call it theirs, which is real interesting because it's about jhana practice. It's not about vipassana. I told you. Thus have I heard on one occasion, the Blessed One was living in the Kuru country, in the town by the name of Kasa Sadama. There he addressed the monks thus, "Monks, venerable sir," they replied, the Blessed One said this: "This is a direct path for the purification of beings, for the surmounting of sorrow and lamentation, for the disappearance of pain and grief, for the attainment of a true way, for the realization of Nibbana, namely the four foundations of mindfulness." What are the four? Here, monks, a monk abides. Now, this is a word that I don't really go along with. He says, contemplating the body. It's not contemplation meditation. It's observation meditation. So I changed the word contemplation to observation. Okay, observing the body as a body. Ardent, fully aware, and mindful, having put away covetousness and grief for the world. He abides observing feeling as feeling. Ardent, fully aware, and mindful, having put away covetousness and grief for the world. He abides observing mind as mind. Ardent, fully aware, and mindful, having put away covetousness and grief for the world. He abides observing mind objects as mind objects, ardent, fully aware, and mindful, having put away covetousness and grief for the world. Now, we're going to go to the observation of the body. And the first thing that we're going to get to is mindfulness of breathing. Is there a Kleenex? Here. And how does a monk abide observing the body as a body? Here a monk gone to the forest or to the root of a tree or an empty hut sits down, sets his body erect, and establishes mindfulness in front of him. Ever mindful, he breathes in. Mindful, he breathes out. Breathing in long, he understands I breathe in long. Or breathing out long, he understands I breathe out long. Breathing in short, he understands I breathe in short. Or breathing out short, he understands I breathe out short. Did you hear me say nostril, nose, upper lip, or abdomen? No, because it's not in the instructions. It says you understand when you take a long breath and you understand when you take a short breath. It doesn't tell you to focus only on the breath. It says you understand when your breath is long and when it's short, when it's fast and when it's slow, when it's subtle and when it's gross. You understand what your breath is doing. It does not ever say focus on the breath. Now, I did 20 years of this, of focusing on the breath. But that's not in the instructions. I was told that you have to see the first part of the in-breath, the middle of the in-breath, the end of the in-breath, the pause, and then doing it again. That's not in the instructions. That's from commentary. Now, the commentary that it generally comes from is the Visuddhimagga. Interesting thing about the author of the Visuddhimagga was he was a Brahmin and had memorized all of the Vedas. He was a scholar, and he didn't know anything about meditation, but he knew what the Vedas said about meditation. So he just kind of incorporated what the Vedas say about meditation into the Buddhist text, or into the way of doing the meditation. So when we go to the sutta itself, we find out, oops, this isn't right. Now, after doing this for 20 years, I was rather shocked at this, because I was told this is the way you got to do it. I never looked at the actual instructions in the sutta. So this changes things a little bit. Now we get to the actual nitty-gritty instructions. It's 2 sentences. He trains thus. When it says he trains this means this is what you got to do. I shall breathe in, experiencing the whole body. Not the whole body of breath, the whole body. He trains thus, I shall breathe out, experiencing the whole body. Now, this is the part that everybody that's doing meditation seems to not do. He trains thus, I shall breathe in, tranquilizing the bodily formation. He trains thus, I shall breathe out, tranquilizing the bodily formation. What does that mean? Does that mean if you focus on the breath enough that you're going to become tranquil? No, that's not what it means. Tranquilizing in Pali is pasambaya. Pasambaya can be a verb, a noun, an adverb, an adjective, depending on the words around it. When it says he trains thus, it's saying that this is an action verb. This is the way you practice it. You tranquilize on the in-breath, you tranquilize on the out-breath. Now, this says tranquilize the body. What's it talking about? I had to work a long time before I figured it out.
When we are breathing in and breathing out, so we check how our nose is.
No, it doesn't say anything about the nose, does it?
How our whole body is working.
Let me do this for a bit. You'll get the idea. Okay? So on the in-breath, you have to tranquilize something. What is it talking about? And you'll get to the whole body in just a minute. One of the things that happened when I was doing Mahasi Sayadaw style meditation was that I always had tension and tightness in my head, in my mind. I had it when I was walking, I had it when I was sitting, I had it when I was eating. There was always a tension and tightness in my head. And I asked many teachers about this tension and tightness, and I was told, well, just ignore it, it'll go away by itself. Please don't sit with your arms crossed. So I started exploring what that was talking about. And it didn't seem right that there should be tension and tightness anywhere in your mind or in your body when you're doing this kind of practice. If there's tension or tightness, that means there's some attachment somewhere. Now, your brain is like this. There's a membrane, it's basically a bag that goes around your brain. Every time you have a thought, every time a feeling arises, every time there's a sensation, your brain expands out and it causes tension and tightness. Now, when I first came to Asia, I lived here for 12 years. I was in all different kinds of countries, going to all different kinds of teachers, trying to find out about this stuff. And I asked very direct questions. I'm a Westerner. That's the way we do it. And what I asked was, what is craving? And I got answers. Oh, it's desire. It's wanting something. How do you recognize craving when it arises? Silence. How are you supposed to let go of that craving? Silence. Just stop desiring. Well, that's not a very precise or good answer. Craving is the I like it, I don't like it mind. Okay, you have a feeling arise, and you have perception right behind that. Perception is the thing that names the feeling. If it's a pleasant feeling, perception says that's pleasant. If it's a painful feeling, perception says that's painful. So every time you see that tension or tightness in your head, in your mind, you are seeing craving. And how do you let go of this tension and tightness? It says right here, tranquilize. Now, a lot of people, they think that the body is from the neck down and mind is from neck up. But that's not true. Body is from the top of the head to the bottom of the feet. So it says to tranquilize your bodily formation. Let go of that tension and tightness in your head, in your mind. Every time you relax, your mind becomes clear. You don't have any disturbing thoughts, your mind becomes pure. Why? Because you're letting go of craving. Now, what I teach is right effort. The Eightfold Path, right effort. I kind of add a little bit to right effort just because it's easier to understand that way. I call it the 6 R's. You recognize when your mind is distracted. You release the distraction. You don't keep your attention on it. You relax the tightness caused by that distraction. Now you've let go of craving. So your mind is clear, your mind is bright, your mind is very, very alert. Then you have to bring up something wholesome. Smile. Uh-oh. Smile during a meditation. Isn't this something new and exciting? How many retreats have you all done where if somebody saw you smiling, they would scold you? I've had students that got kicked out of retreats because they were smiling. That's bad influence on the other meditators. Whoops. Now, smiling is real important. The more you smile, the better your mindfulness becomes. Mindfulness is remembering to observe how mind's attention moves from one thing to another. It's the observation power. So, you release by not keeping your attention on that distraction. You relax and you let go of the craving. Now your mind is very pure, and you smile, and smiling helps your mind to be light. And you bring that light, smiling, pure mind to your object of meditation. And you stay with your object of meditation as long as you can. That's 6 R's. That's right effort. I've done a lot of different kinds of meditation over the years. I've been meditating since, I guess it was around the early 70s. So I've been doing this for a long time. I've practiced a lot of different kinds of meditation. And I started to see, after finding this, I started to see the difference between what's being taught as jhana practice and what the Buddha taught as jhana practice. There is a difference. Now I know the vipassana, what happened in America was there were some people that did a lot of meditation here in India, and then they practiced with the Burmese, and they did, Manindra was a big Vipassana student, and he taught a lot of people. And then they came back to America, and they kind of misunderstood what Mahasi Sayadaw was teaching. He was teaching jhana practice, and he was teaching vipassana. And he said, well, For the layman, it's better to do just straight vipassana because your progress is going to be faster and you can attain nibbana that way. But for monks who have more time, do the jhana practice. But when it got translated into America, it was, don't ever do a jhana practice, just do straight vipassana. That's the only way. And it got kind of confused. Now, if you talk to anybody in America about jhana practice, unless they've been practicing with me, they will tell you that jhana means concentration, deep concentration, one-pointed concentration, absorption concentration. But that's not what the Buddha taught. Now, what is one-pointed or absorption concentration? Your mind is on your object of meditation, say the breath, that's fine. And you have a distraction, it pulls you away. What are the instructions? If you're practicing straight vipassana, the instructions are to note it until it goes away, and then come back to your object, your primary object of meditation. Okay? But where is the tranquilizing bodily formation in that? It's not there. So what are you doing when you immediately come back? You're bringing that craving with you. And that causes your mind to get into an absorbed state where eventually the force of the concentration suppresses the hindrances from coming up. Now, hindrances, this is another thing that's really not very well understood these days. I've read a lot of books on hindrances, and what are you supposed to do when a hindrance arises? You're supposed to push it away. You're supposed to suppress it. Well, that tends to make the hindrance come back over and over again. I have a friend that's been practicing straight vipassana very faithfully for 50 years. When he started learning about the meditation, he had a very big fear and an anxiety while he was meditating. And to this day, if I hear him giving a talk, I hear the fear and anxiety in his voice. And he'll talk about it, and he'll say, well, it just doesn't bother me so much anymore, but it's still there. Well, what's wrong with that practice? Where is the purity of mind? There's something that's missing in this practice. So, when you're practicing according to these instructions, you're on the breath. You're relaxing on the in-breath, relaxing on the out-breath. And your mind gets distracted. So, you notice that your mind is distracted, you let that distraction be there by itself, you relax the tightness caused by that distraction, and I'll talk about that in just a moment, and then you smile and you come back to your object of meditation. Okay, so you've let go of that craving. And that changes the entire meditation. Not a little bit. It changes it a lot. If you keep bringing back that craving, you don't really notice too much about hindrances. Now, I have a question for you. I'll get to your answer in just a bit. I have a question for you, and that is, why do hindrances arise? Do you know? Because you broke a precept. Yeah, that's right. That's right. You broke a precept at some point. It might be 10 lifetimes ago. It might be yesterday. It doesn't matter. When you break a precept, you have a little tiny voice in your mind that says, I shouldn't have done that. And that causes guilty feeling to arise. And that's the beginning of that false belief in a personal self. I am that. I made a mistake. So, when you're practicing this way, and you're relaxing on the in-breath and relax on the out-breath, and a distraction comes, the distraction comes and is your teacher. It's showing you where you made a mistake. And when you add that relaxed step, you're letting go of that, and you're purifying your mind. And now you bring that pure mind to something wholesome. Smile, and bring that back to your object of meditation. So you're actually purifying your mind when you're doing this kind of meditation. I have a lot of friends that have been doing straight Vipassana for many years, and they still don't recognize that hindrances are your teachers. They're teaching you where you made a mistake, and you need to relax and let it go so you can purify your mind. And the big complaint in America is, well, I did this meditation for so many years, and now I just hit a wall. I don't go any deeper. But they've been doing meditation every year for maybe a month every year or a few weeks every year, and they run across the same problem over and over and over again. And they think, well, attaining Nibbana is too hard. Maybe we'll just do it in another lifetime. Okay? And because of that kind of practice, mind tends to get more critical, harder, when you're not doing the practice, when you're living your life. Mind is not as soft as you would like it to be, but anger comes up easily, frustration, sadness, whatever it happens to be. Now, part of the problem with this is when they're sitting, they're not purifying their mind. So they're not actually recognizing that the hindrance that came up is your friend, is your teacher, and you're not purifying your mind of it. You're bringing it back to your object of meditation. And that does not lead to a happy, uplifted existence. This kind of practice, when you add that one step of relax, that has been forgotten about here in the instructions. When you relax the tension and tightness in your head, okay, when you relax it here, actually the meninges goes all the way back down your spine. When you relax here, You're relaxing your entire body. I had to explain a bit first. And you can get very, very comfortable while you're sitting. And eventually you'll get to where you're in a mental realm only. You don't have a body anymore. And that's when you read the Anapanasati Sutta, that's what it actually says. When you get to the fourth jhana, now you're tranquilizing your mental formation. Because the body is, you just don't notice your body anymore. Now it's all mental. So this is how you purify your mind. Now if you want to experiment and do that with your mindfulness of breathing, I actually don't recommend it unless you're really, really set on not doing the meditation the way you've been doing it for years. Let go of that. You have to remember to relax on the in-breath, relax on the out-breath, and relax whenever there's any distraction. But what happens with people that have been doing the meditation like this for so long is they forget. And then you get from doing the kind of practice that the Buddha taught to the kind of practice that the Brahmins taught. And it's different paths. Even though you can use a lot of Buddhist terminology, you're still practicing the way the Brahmins taught. So what I suggest you do is loving kindness. Why? Because you don't know what's going to happen next. Okay? And you're going to have a lot more hindrances arise because you're still learning. And now you're going to start feeling more happy all the time. And the Buddha was very clear about practicing loving kindness. He said, when you practice loving kindness, your progress in the meditation is faster than with any other kind of meditation you do. And I have to tell you, it's really true. See, I give, when I was doing Mahasi Sayadaw, I was doing 3-month retreats. I did an 8-month retreat. I did a 2-year retreat. It took a long time. But when you start looking at the good qualities of the Dhamma, the second good quality in Pali is called akaliko, which is misinterpreted right now. Everlasting. No. Akaliko means immediately effective. And think about it. The Buddha couldn't teach meditation to people and become successful if they had to go through years of practice to get to the end result. He had to teach them something that worked. It worked quickly, and it was fairly simple to understand. I had, the first 4 or 5 years that I was doing straight Vipassana, it was a lot more complicated, and I figured out what it wasn't before I could figure out what it was. And it took a long time. When I started following the directions of the suttas, I didn't it didn't take very long. It's easy to get into a jhana. When I first became a monk, I was in Thailand practicing meditation. I was told, it's going to take you at least 15 years to get into a jhana. And I'm thinking, 15 years? These guys, no, that can't be right. So I went someplace else and I ran across some Sri Lankan monks, and they laughed when I said that the monks told me it was going to take me 15 years to get into a jhana, and they laughed. They said, you come to Sri Lanka, it only takes 10 years. Okay. When I started practicing this way, when I started really seeing that when you let go of that craving, your mind is very alert and bright. Right after I discovered this, and I kept on doing it to make sure it was right, I went into my room and I sat down and I sat for 2 hours. Continually being aware, every in-breath relax, every out-breath relax. I got into a jhana the first time I tried it. So 2 hours, 10 years. Which one do I want to do? So it's real amazing that the Buddha's teaching is so many different types of Buddhist practices are really complicated. And the Buddha was renowned for making things so simple that he wasn't believed. This is too easy. This is too simple. Now, I give 10-day retreats with loving kindness and the Brahma Viharas. Okay? Why do I give a 10-day retreat? Because you don't need any more than that. You understand what you're doing. It is this simple. Use the 6 R's. Every time your mind gets pulled away from your object of meditation, use the 6 R's. Come back. In Indonesia, I have a lot of students. And any time I say that I'm going to come to Indonesia, within one day, all of the retreats that I would give, which is sometimes four retreats in a visit, they're all full. Why? Because this works. I have a lot of students that have never done meditation before. I really like those kind of people, because they don't know what to expect. And they attain Nibbana in 10 days, or 8 days, or 5 days, depending on how well they follow the directions. It sounds too fantastic. But that had to be because the Buddha wouldn't have been very popular if it took 10 years to do anything. It took that long to understand it. See, this instruction in mindfulness of breathing is 4 sentences. That sounds pretty simple to me. Just do what it says. It works. It works fast. you start feeling a personality development in yourself. You start having more and more equanimity in your practice, more equanimity in your daily life. You don't get so excited. You don't get so caught up in emotional upsets. It works. So, now we're going to go to one of the things that in the Satipatthana Suta, Bhikkhu Bodhi put this insight after every little, and his insights are from the Visuddhimagga, which means that they're real hard to understand what they're talking about. I'll give you a for instance. Okay. In this way he abides observing the body as a body internally, or he abides observing the body as a body externally, or he abides observing the body as a body both internally and externally, or he abides observing the body its true nature of arising, or, see, there's all these ors in there. That kind of means it can be one or the other. It doesn't really matter. That's very confusing. He abides observing the body, its nature of vanishing. Or he abides observing in the body its nature of both arising and vanishing. Or else mindful that there is a body is simply established in him to the extent necessary for bare knowledge and mindfulness. Now explain what that means to me. So I don't really go into the insights, because one, if you're doing the practice the way you're supposed to be doing it, you're seeing impermanence, you're seeing it directly. It's not a philosophy. Now, one of the things that I had real trouble with was the insight knowledges. And going through all of the insight knowledges, because they really didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Well, of course everything's changing. Okay, but you make a big deal out of it. Anicca, dukkha, anatta. Everything is anicca, everything is anicca. What does that really mean? Okay, everything is changing, so what? But it's talked up so like it's a big deal. Yesterday I gave a discourse on Sariputta's experience of meditation, all the different levels he went through. And when you get to the arupa jhana, that is called infinite consciousness, you're going to see anicca in a way you never even dreamed possible before. Right now, you hear me and you see me, and you think this is happening at the same time. No, it's not. That was roughly 100,000 arising and passing away of ear consciousness. When you get to infinite consciousness, you're going to see individual consciousnesses arise and pass away. You're going to really see and understand deeply the impermanent nature of everything. The dissatisfaction, because there's always this movement. And you're going to see that there's no controller. It happens because conditions are right when your mind settles down enough. So you're seeing these things up close, and you really start understanding anicca, dukkha, anatta. It's not a philosophy. But from the time that I started meditating, that's what everybody was talking about. The third insight knowledge is seeing the impermanence of everything. But that's only surface. That's not seeing it for real. When you start seeing individual consciousnesses arise and pass away, you're seeing birth, death, birth, death, birth, death, birth, death. That's why the Buddha didn't talk about reincarnation. He talked about rebirth, because that's truly the way things are happening. Very fast. And when you see that, that starts to change the way you start seeing the world. You start understanding more and more completely how this process actually works. So it's a real interesting phenomena. The pushing of anicca, dukkha, anatta, but it's only philosophy, because you're not seeing it for real. In surface ways, you see it. And you think, well, yeah, that's right. But when you see it for real, it's like, wow, this is amazing. I had no idea that there were so many different consciousnesses arising and passing away so quickly. And now I see it. Whoa. When I left Asia and went back to America and started teaching, I wanted to call this meditation the oh wow meditation. Because you have so many insights that happen, not in some kind of structured way, but you're having a lot of, oh wow, that's how that works. Isn't that nice? Now I really see it. And it's not just words, it's direct experience. And when you have direct experience, that starts changing the way you see the world around you. And you start losing attachment to things, and you can become disenchanted with a lot of things. So it's a real interesting phenomena. Now, the next part of the Satipatthana Suta, it talks about the four postures. I've always gotten a kick out of the four postures. It says, again, when walking, a monk understands, I am walking. When standing, he understands, I am standing. When sitting, he understands, I am sitting. When lying down, he understands, I'm lying down. Now, do you know whether you're sitting or not? Well, of course you know you're sitting. And they're making like a big deal out of. And when I was doing the walking meditation, I put my attention on my feet, and I was walking really, really slowly, and then I put my foot down, and then I would go to the end of the walkway, and I would stand there for a little while, and I would, because this is what I was told to do, as if I didn't know I was standing. Oh, standing, 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 standing. 10 or 15 times I told myself I was standing like I didn't recognize it. Now the 4 postures, they're good to know. You can do, say you hurt your back, and sitting in meditation causes your back to get worse. So you can lie down. Okay, that's no problem. Or if it's more comfortable that you're standing, you can stand. Or you can walk. Whatever is comfortable for you at the time. I'm not real big on suffering. I'm not real big on having pain, because that distracts you. Why? When a painful feeling arises, what happens in your mind? I don't like that. That really hurts. And then it gets so bad, it turns into an emergency, and then you have to get up and start moving around. So I don't recommend a lot of people sitting on the floor. Sit in a chair. Be comfortable. Because it's hard to be mindful when you have pain, because it takes your attention right to it. And you're identifying with it. You're taking it personally. So it's a phenomena that you don't need to bring up. I mean, when I was in Burma, I had a cushion that I sat on. Now, I would get up and do my walking meditation, and I'd look into the meditation hall, and I saw Burmese monks going up to my cushion and kicking it like it was something. You're supposed to be flat on a hard floor. Well, I wasn't raised in Asia to sit on the floor. I was raised in the West where I sat on chairs. So I couldn't sit flat. My legs would go to sleep every time. I had to sit so that I was at a little bit of an angle. And then I could sit for longer periods of time. So when I started teaching, and I had people that were sitting on the floor, and I'd ask them, how long do you sit? Well, I could only sit for 20 minutes. My pain was so intense. Well, stop sitting on the floor. It's going to make pain arise until you get used to it, and that can take a long time. So sit in a chair. You mean I can sit in a chair and meditate? You can do anything and meditate. People have the wrong idea about what meditation actually is. I wrote a book about it, actually. It's called Life is Meditation. Meditation is life. There's nothing that isn't part of meditation. I don't care what you're doing. You can be aware of what's happening. You can see hindrances arise in your daily life. But what I'm trying to show you is what to do with those hindrances when they arise. Use the 6 R's. Develop more and more balance in your mind. Now, every level of jhana, which I don't call concentration, I call it a level of your understanding. Every level of your understanding has equanimity in it, has balance. And as you go deeper in your meditation, that equanimity gets stronger and stronger until you get to the 4th jhana, where there's no other feeling that arises. You don't even feel your body anymore. Now you have strong equanimity and balance in your mind. And this is very necessary for your daily life. When you have more balance in your mind, you don't get so highly emotional when things don't happen the way you want them to. Somebody comes at you with their anger. You don't get there and take their anger and throw it back at them. They're just upset. No big deal. Your mind stays balanced naturally. Okay? When you practice with this one extra step of relax, it changes your personality. You do have personality development because you're learning to have more equanimity all the time. It works. So we're going to go to what is called full awareness in the Satipatthana Suta. Again, a monk is one who acts in full awareness when going forward and returning, who acts in full awareness when looking ahead and looking away, who acts in full awareness when flexing and extending his limbs, who acts in full awareness when wearing his robe and carrying his outer robe and bowl, who acts in full awareness when eating, drinking, consuming food, and tasting, who acts in full awareness when defecating and urinating, who acts in full awareness when walking, standing, sitting, falling asleep, waking up, talking and keeping silent. Full awareness of what? Any idea? Full awareness of what his mind is doing while you're doing these kind of activities. Don't let your mind ho-hum around. 6R. See, the more you smile, the better your mindfulness becomes. The better your mindfulness becomes, the easier it is to catch when your mind starts floating away and thinking about this and that. And just getting caught up in emotional this or emotional that. So this is a practice of using right effort every time you do anything. Doesn't matter what you're doing. You can lay down and relax. And if your mind takes off and starts worrying about this or that, you can 6R. You can let it be. So it doesn't matter whether you're taking a shower. I have one student that he says, I'd love to take showers. That's where I have my best meditation. He's standing under the water, and all of a sudden his mind goes really deep. And he has a lot of insights into how mind is working when he's in the water. It can happen anytime, at any place. I had one student that called me up and she said, I just got done doing this retreat with you, and this evening I started washing the dishes, and all of a sudden my mind just started going really, really deep. So I sat down for a little while, and I had this wonderful experience, and I have so much joy now and so much happiness. She experienced Nibbana while she was washing dishes. It's not about sitting. It's about being aware. That's one of the problems that happened in America when the Japanese came and they started teaching about meditation. They just called meditation sitting. And they kind of, because they were doing one-pointed kinds of concentration, they missed what being mindful really is. And I've gone to different Zen practices and tried to figure out what they're talking about. Well, just clear your mind. Okay, how do you do that? Well, just clear your mind. That's enough. Whoa, no instruction. After a few years, you might be able to do it. You can force your mind to do anything if you really put your mind to it. But what did they learn from that? That's the question. There's an awful lot of getting up while I'm giving a Dhamma talk. And that is at least disrespectful. Please don't do that. Now we get into a place in the Satipatthana Suta that is talking about foulness of the body and the different body parts and that sort of thing. This actually is more for monks than it is for laymen. When you start getting into the foulness of the body, you give it to monks so that they won't have so much lust arising in their mind. But I teach it in a different way than it talks about here. I've had a lot of students that were college students. They were 22, 23 years old. Their hormones are really active and they get distracted very easily. And they started complaining when they did a retreat because they had a lot of lust arising in their mind. So I said, okay, let's do this. The next time you see a beautiful body walk beside you, turn it inside out. Tell me where it's beautiful. Oh, you've got beautiful intestines. The pus, the spittle, oh, that's wonderful. What a gorgeous liver you have. When you turn the body inside out, what's beautiful about it? Really? And that puts balance back in their mind so that they're not caught up with it. Now the next parts of the Satipatthana Suta is talking about the charnel ground meditations, and that's again more for monks than it is for laymen. Because it takes some time to sit and contemplate and watch a body rot. So we're going to go to the observation of feeling. And how, monks, does a monk abide observing feeling as feeling? When feeling a pleasant feeling, a monk understands I feel a pleasant feeling. When feeling a painful feeling, he understands I feel a painful feeling. When feeling a neither painful nor pleasant feeling, he understands I feel a neither painful nor pleasant feeling. When feeling a worldly pleasant feeling, he understands I feel a worldly pleasant feeling. What is a worldly pleasant feeling? It's the 6 sense doors. When feeling an unworldly pleasant feeling, he understands I feel an unworldly pleasant feeling. What's an unworldly pleasant feeling? It's a feeling that most people don't have. It's a feeling that arises when you get into a jhana. That's called an unworldly pleasant feeling. In some places here, they call it a supernatural feeling. And it's jhana. That's what it is. Okay, when feeling a worldly painful feeling, he understands I feel a worldly painful feeling. That's a painful feeling at one of the sense doors, right? When feeling an unworldly painful feeling. What's an unworldly painful feeling? Now we're getting tricky. An unworldly painful feeling is a meditation pain. How do you tell the difference between a real pain and a meditation pain? A real pain arises. You're sitting in meditation, you get up, and that pain doesn't go away. Now, some people, they already have pains before they come to the meditation. They got a back pain or a leg pain. I try to get them to sit as comfortably as possible. I had a lady that she was 82 years old, and she had a really, really bad back. And she couldn't sit for more than 10 or 15 minutes before that pain arose. So I told her, don't worry about it. You smile more, you get up and move around and come back and sit. By the end of a 10-day retreat, she was sitting for 2 hours without pain. Pretty amazing. So I don't want you to push if you have real pain. But a meditation pain, it can be just as real as a real pain, but when you get up and start walking, it goes away after a couple of minutes. That's how you differentiate between real pain and meditation pain. Sometimes a meditation pain can be incredibly hard to let go of. It's really, really painful. Now, when I was doing the Mahasi method, they told us something real interesting. If you have any pain arise in your body, put your attention right in the middle of that pain and, quote, see its true nature. You know what happens when you put your attention in the middle of a pain? It gets bigger and more intense. And you have aversion arising, and you have dissatisfaction and dislike, and you start fighting it. And who doesn't like it? I don't. Who wants it to stop? I do. Who's taking it personally and resisting what's happening in the present? I am. What you do with what arises in the present dictates what happens in the future. If you have a painful feeling arise, and you fight with it, and you try to make it go away, and you try to make it stop and turn it into a real emergency where you have to get up and move, who's taking it personally? Who's identifying with that sensation? Who's causing themselves suffering? I am. I'm doing it to myself. But when you allow the pain to be there, it doesn't matter whether it's mental pain or physical pain. Everything about Buddha's practice is about doing this with your mind. And every time there's a painful feeling arise, your mind goes, I don't like it. I want it to stop. I want it to go away. Why does it have to bother me now? Every thought about the pain makes the pain bigger and more intense. But when you use the 6 R's, what does the 6 R's say? Okay, there's a distraction, and it's a painful distraction. Allow it to be there by itself. Don't keep your attention on it. Relax, smile, come back to your object of meditation. If you make a big deal out of anything that arises, it's going to stay, and it's going to last a lot longer. Now, I've told you that I did Mahasi-style meditation for 20 years. For 15 of those years, I had like somebody stabbed me in the arm and pulled the knife down, and then they twisted it. And I had such incredible pain, I couldn't even pick up my arm. But I'd get up and start walking, and it would go away after 5 minutes or so. Oh, that's a meditation pain. Boy, it was real. And I really didn't like it, and I didn't have anybody to explain to me that it was just a meditation pain. Let it be there by itself. Stop trying to control it. I was fighting it the whole time. Until eventually I got enough equanimity in my mind it stopped bothering me. But it took a long time. Anything you make a big deal out of is going to cause more suffering. Okay? Now, what happens when a pain arises? You start squeezing around it because it's aversion. I don't like it. I don't want it. That's for real. But it's like if I took a red hot coal and put it in my hand and I would go, I don't like it. You know, that really hurts. I'm burning myself. And I'd squeeze tighter. And the pain gets really, really big. Or you put a coal in your hand and you look at that and say, yeah, that hurts. Let it be. Don't keep your attention on it. Don't make a big deal out of it. I don't care if it's a mental big deal or a physical big deal. Stop keeping your attention on it. Let it be there by itself. Develop your equanimity to it. That will fade away by itself. It really works this way. Anything you make a big deal out of, you have an attachment to. And you are causing yourself suffering. So, your choice. What are you going to do? You going to fight with it for a few years like I did? Oh, that was great fun. I had so many different Chinese oils that I was putting on my arm. Oh, maybe that'll help. But I found out it was all mental. It was me doing it to myself. Yeah, sometimes pain does arise. Yeah, sometimes it can be real painful and it can hurt. Okay. Never mind. Let it be there by itself. Relax. Smile. Come back to your object of meditation. Your equanimity will get stronger. And then you're not identifying with it anymore. And guess what? It goes away. Wow. And all I had to do was stop making a big deal out of it in my mind. Some people have sadness, sometimes some people have anxiety, some people have depression. Well, every one of those is a feeling, isn't it? And what do you do when you have depression? Okay, you have the 5 aggregates. This is feeling, this is thoughts. What is depression? It's a painful feeling. As soon as that painful feeling, what do you try to do with it? You try to think the feeling away. And the more you think the feeling, the bigger and more intense the feeling becomes. So the first thing you have to do is let go of your thinking about it. It's only a feeling. And you know what? It's not even your feeling. It's just a feeling. You didn't tell yourself, you know, I haven't been depressed for a while. I think it's time to get depressed. You don't tell yourself that kind of thing. Nobody does. It happens because conditions are right. It is a distraction. It's from breaking a precept in the past. But you want to get rid of that. Don't fight with it. Don't try to control it. Let it be there by itself. And relax. And smile. Oh, but I don't feel like smiling. I don't care. Smile anyway. And I had one lady that came up to me and she had some real emotional things happening. I said, well, just 6R. I can't 6R. Okay. Smile. Oh, I can't smile. Okay. Then laugh. It's not funny. And of course that made me laugh. And as soon as I laughed, she started laughing. And then I said, how's your mind feel now? Oh, it's a lot better. Guess what? Why do I say you need to laugh? Because that's the fastest way to let go of a hindrance. Oh, you're not supposed to have fun when you're doing the meditation. This is serious stuff. But look at what happens when your mind is serious. Your mindfulness is slow. It's real easy to get caught with hindrances when they come up and take it personally, and now you got to fight with those. Now, when you're doing something that's fun, it's easy, right? I enjoy this. This is great fun. I like doing this. It's like kids when they're playing with their computers. They play in games and then they lose. What happens? Do they throw a temper tantrum? No. They go, oh, okay, let's start over again. This is fun. Okay, develop that kind of mind. The biggest problem with mindfulness is remembering. Remember to observe how mind's attention moves. Remember. It takes practice, but if you have fun doing that practice, it's not near as painful. So there's going to be times that painful feelings arise, yeah? There's going to be situations in your life where there's real painful things that arise. I mean, a parent can be dying, or a relative can be dying. You're not going to feel like laughing at that time. But you want the equanimity, the balance. A few years ago, my mother died. She was 94. There was time. What more can I say? And the family got together, and there was 12 or 15 of us in the same room with her as she was dying. And I thought that the best way that I can help everybody is by radiating equanimity to everybody. So I was radiating equanimity to everybody, and everybody had this nice balanced mind. They weren't crying, they were just being with my mother as she was dying. And there was a great support. And when she finally died, then after 5 minutes or so, one of my relatives said, I don't know whether to laugh because she's not suffering anymore or to cry. And I said, doesn't matter. You're not affecting her anymore. If the relatives would have been loudly crying that this was happening, that causes confusion in the person that's dying. But my mother died very peacefully. She had a little smile on her face. Ah, nice. My family is very much Christians. You gotta take Jesus as your Savior. No, I'm not going to take anybody as my Savior. I'm my own Savior. But every one of the family members came up to me and thanked me for being there. Now, I'm weird to them. I wear robes. I cut off my hair. And everybody in my family knows how much I travel. Every winter, I leave the United States and I come to Asia because I like warm weather. Well, how can you afford to do that? I said, well, people like me. They want me to come and visit. Oh, it's got to be more than that. So the whole thing about painful feeling, by nature, painful feeling is repulsive. You want to push it away. You don't want it to be around. But did you ask that painful feeling to come up? No. Can you make it go away? No. So why don't you accept it and let it be there by itself? Don't keep your attention on it. Don't make it a big deal. That's real amazing when you do that. Because you'll start seeing that your mind starts to get in more balance, and it's just not that big a deal. It's easy to allow things to be without trying to control. Okay, so now we're going to get to the observation of mind. Interesting. Now you're going to see where this is really talking about jhana practice. But this is the Satipatthana Suta. It's supposed to be only about insights. Well, you have a lot of insights when you have jhana practice. That's why I wanted to call this an oh wow meditation, because you have a lot of, wow, this is good. I understand this. You have a lot of insights that are coming, but it's not the structured insights of people that are practicing vipassana. That's a little bit more structured than actually does happen. Okay. And how does a monk abide observing mind as mind? Here a monk understands. See, there's that key word again. Not that they're holding on to and trying to control. You understand. Mind affected by lust as mind affected by lust. And mind unaffected by lust as mind unaffected by lust. He understands a mind affected by hate as mind affected by hate. And mind unaffected by hate as mind unaffected by hate. He understands mind affected by delusion as mind affected by delusion. What is delusion? What does that mean? So let's go from the start of this. Lust, I like it. Hatred, I don't like it. Delusion, I am that. Okay, this is another way of describing craving. I like it, I don't like it. Taking it personally. That's deluded mind. Okay. He understands a contracted mind as contracted. What is a contracted mind? Oh, it sure gets quiet when I ask questions, you know? A contracted mind is a mind that has sleepiness and dullness in it. Sloth and torpor. Now, and there are some useful things in commentaries, and this is one of those things. Imagine that you just got out of the oven a loaf of bread, and you go to get the butter to put on the bread, and the butter is in the freezer. It doesn't spread so good, does it? And that's what a contracted mind is. It's a mind that just isn't so smooth and doesn't spread so easily. It tears the bread. So a contracted mind occurs because you're not having strong enough interest in staying with your object of meditation. Not enough interest. You kind of let your mind ho-hum a little bit while you're with your object of meditation. Yeah, and then it starts getting dreamy. Now you're not with your object of meditation so much anymore. And then your posture starts to slump. And then your head starts bobbing. The Buddha had a lot of different ways of getting rid of sloth and torpor. One of the ways was pinch your earlobe really, really hard. So one of my teachers, there was a lot of people that had sloth and torpor one day, and he comes in and he looks at it all. He says, I'm going to go get some pliers so you can really wake up. And I started laughing. I said, is that one of the requisites for monks, a pair of pliers so they can... But it's taking more interest in being with your spiritual friend. Okay? More interest. And how does it arise? Okay, pick up your mindfulness. How does this occur? What happens first? What happens after that? What happens after that? When you start taking an interest in how this hindrance arises, you're picking up your energy, and guess what? The sloth and torpor goes away. More interest. How does this work? So, and a monk sees distracted mind as distracted. What is a distracted mind? Restlessness, right? Your mind is distracted. It likes to think about this and that, likes to go away and cause all kinds of havoc for you. You gotta be really, really familiar with restless mind, and you have to be really, really familiar with contracted mind, with sloth and torpor. These guys are gonna stay around until you become an arahat. So you better be friends with them. Don't look at them like they're the enemy. They are not. They are showing you where your attachment is. And they're helping you to be able to recognize it when it arises. And when you do that while you're sitting, then your mind becomes much better mindfulness when you're doing your daily activities, and you can recognize the hindrance more easily. So you don't get caught with it for as long. Okay, and he understands exalted mind as exalted. What's an exalted mind? Any idea? Jhana. Your mind is uplifted. Your mind is pure. Oh, this is the Satipatthana Suta. This is all about insights. Well, right here it's talking about jhana. Isn't that interesting? He understands. I got to get my glasses back on for this one. Surpassed mind as surpassed. What is a surpassed mind? We're already talking about jhana. What's a surpassed mind? when you're going from the material realm to the immaterial realm. About 75% of my students, when they do a 10-day retreat and they follow the directions, will experience some of the immaterial realms. That's where the Brahma Viharas are. But I don't have a body anymore. I'm just in a mental realm. Where is mind? Do you know? I don't either. It's there. Your understanding becomes much deeper when you get into the immaterial realms. You really start to see more and more clearly the impersonal nature of everything. And you start letting go of hindrances, and you start staying with your object of meditation for longer and longer periods of time. You get into the realm of nothingness, you might be able to sit for 20 minutes with nothing. Or you get into neither perception nor non-perception. That's a real subtle state of mind. You might be able to stay for an hour with just a peaceful, calm mind that has no movement of mind's attention at all. It's really nice. So we're talking about Rupa Jhana and Arupa Jhana in the Satipatthana Suta. He understands a mind that's collected as a mind that's collected. Now, when you're in any one of the jhanas, your mind is collected. But your mindfulness isn't so sharp when you're in the lower jhanas. It just lasts for a little while, and then your mind gets distracted by something, your mindfulness gets weak, and then you have a hindrance. But now you're starting to understand that the hindrance is not your enemy, the hindrance is your friend, and you let it be, and you relax, and you smile, and you come back to your object of meditation. And you'll start staying for longer and longer periods of time with your object of meditation. This is a natural process. This happens when you're practicing the way that is recommended. And smiling is a big part of it. Okay, he understands a liberated mind as liberated. And you will get to that experience if you follow the directions. In Indonesia, the students that, especially the brand new students, 60% of them experience one form or another of nibbana. There's personality development. You know, when I was doing so much straight vipassana, I'd get off of a 3-month retreat and talk to other people about what was happening during the retreat. Talked about how hard it was and how painful it was, and generally how dissatisfied I should have done better. There's all of these kind of things that are going on. When people get done with a 10-day retreat with me, a lot of them are saying, geez, I wish I could sit here longer. This is good. This is fun. I feel more happy now than I've ever felt before. That's the Buddha's teaching. See, every night I read a sutta to you. So it's not my teaching that I'm giving you. I'm giving the Buddha's teaching. And because of that, in 10 days you're going to be a lot smarter than you ever dreamed possible. Because you're going to understand because of direct practice. When you get to the fourth jhana, the Buddha praised the fourth jhana a lot, where you have equanimity and you don't have a body anymore. Then when you get off retreat and you start reading Dhamma books, you're going to see, oh, that isn't the way that worked. Why? Because I have direct practice and this is what I experience. That's not matching what I experience. There are mistakes that happen. And a lot of Dhamma books are written more by people that are interested in just learning from books. Intellectuals are very hard to teach. Why? Because their information is way, way, way too slow. But when you have direct experience, your awareness of how this works is very quick. So the intellectual types, they like to sit around and talk a lot. But quite often, they don't really know what they're talking about. Because I read it in this sutta, or I read it from this person, and he's an accredited person, and he really knows what he's talking about. There was an intellectual that was giving a talk on YouTube, and he started talking about monks as being beggars. We're not beggars. We are givers. We don't ask people to feed us. People feed us because they think what we have to teach them is valuable. I mean, I don't make any money and I fly all over the world. And my family still can't figure out how I can do that. So, what can we do? We practice our generosity. That's what monks are for. We practice giving as much as we can so that you can be happy. So that you can have an uplifted mind. A lot of monks really know what an uplifted mind is, and they want you to be able to experience it too. They want you to have equanimity. They want you to have more fun in your life. But there are some monks that they really get into talking about suffering. All life is suffering. Yeah, you can hold on to that thought as much as you want. That's not what the Buddha said. He said, there is suffering in life. You don't have to be a genius to figure that one out. But he didn't want you to teach that way. He wanted you to teach that there is the cessation of suffering. Aren't you more interested in finding out how to let it go? That makes sense. I was with a Zen teacher for about a year. And these people would come from college and they'd want to find out a little bit about Buddhism, and the first thing he had them do was sit in meditation, and they didn't give them any instruction. And right after they got through sitting and they're kind of confused and they wanted to know what was happening, he would come up real close to them and he'd slap the floor. Wham! Everything is suffering. And that's all he'd say. Oh, you picture yourself. I don't know anything about Buddhism, and I'm going to come to find out, and this guy is supposed to be able to teach me, and all he's talking about is bad stuff. How is suffering? I could only take it so long. Then I'd say, but I'm more interested in letting go of the suffering. And I am. And that is the correct way to teach according to the Buddha's teaching. Don't focus on the suffering, focus on the cessation of it, how to let it go. That's where the real education is. And I was with a lot of Thai monks that were giving Dhamma talks, and they just would go on and on about how much suffering and how difficult it is. I always got a kick out of going to Thailand because they had some of the most grotesque magazines I've ever run across. They had the Death of the Month magazine, where they would have pictures of people that had died horribly. And I'm thinking, why would I want to pay money for a magazine like that? That doesn't make sense. But in a way, it was kind of useful too for me, because they were so morbid about dying and that sort of thing. They would let monks go into autopsies, which is a real interesting thing, because you get to see what's in the body, and you see how they, like this one lady, she died of a blood vessel in her brain popped. So they were taking her body apart and they were weighing the heart and the liver and all of this kind of stuff. And then they took a sharp knife and they cut around like this. And then they flipped that over on her face and then took a saw and cut the skull. And there's the brain. And oh yeah, that's where that blood vessel, it's a lot of blood right there. That's what happened. And they would cut the brain apart and slice it to see if what else was happening, if they had tumors or that sort of thing. And all the time that I'm looking at an autopsy like that, my mind is going, okay, I have the same stuff she has. Where am I? Where was she? Interesting. How can you identify with this as being me? It's just a bunch of stuff, all hooked together to make up what I call myself. And I'm not there. Where am I? Had some real deep contemplation about that for a long time. If I'm not my body, what am I? Where am I? Why does this stuff work this way? I mean, there's a lot of interesting questions that you can ask about these kind of things. So I was thankful for the Thai because of that. Because they made me think more deeply about this whole process and what Why? What's this about? Where did we come from? Where do we go? For the last, 50 years or so, every year is going to be the end of the world. The world is just gonna, and people are starting, there's going to be this kind of natural disaster. We got a planet that's going to come and knock us out. And there's going to be all of these kind of problems. And I keep on thinking, so? So what? Well, you could die. Well, I'm going to die anyway. I spent a lot of time going to hospitals and being with people as they died. This one man, he was a pilot of a 747, so he was really quite an educated man. And he got some cancer, and he was in the hospital. I went to visit him about every day. One day, I walked in the room, and his family is there, and he said, "I want to talk to Bhante alone." Oh, okay. And I said, "What's happening?" And he said, "I just had a talk with a doctor, and he told me that I'm terminal." And I started to laugh. I said, "Good, so am I. Everybody is. It's okay to be terminal. What's the big deal? But I'm going to die." Well, okay, so am I. Show me somebody that doesn't. It depends on what you're doing with your mind. I was teaching him loving kindness meditation, and I taught him forgiveness, and had him clear with his family misunderstandings that they'd had along the way, and they just forgave everybody, and he was happy, and his body just deteriorated really fast. He went from being maybe 65 kilos to 25. And he was just a skeleton when he died. But he had the most gorgeous smile on his face when he died. Do I worry about where he was reborn? Not at all. I taught him how to do the loving kindness and send loving and kind thoughts to other people. Don't worry about yourself. Practice your own generosity. Give that away. Continually radiate loving kindness to other people. Make them happy so they can let go of their suffering. So the last part of the Satipatthana Suta is called the mindfulness of mind objects. And I find this very interesting because the first part of mind objects is talking about the 5 hindrances. Well, isn't that something? These are mind objects. Good. So, and how does a monk abide observing mind objects as mind objects in terms of the 5 hindrances? Here there being sensual desire, and a monk, he understands there's sensual desire. Or no sensual desire if there's no sensual desire. And he also understands how there comes to be the arising of unarisen sensual desire, and how there comes to be the abandoning of arisen sensual desire, and how there comes to be the future non-arising of the abandoned sensual desire. What does that mean? Well, let's look at it again. How does there come to be the arising of sensual desire? What happens? Oh, your mindfulness goes away. Oh, that's why the hindrance comes up. It doesn't matter whether it's one of these 5 hindrances or not. I call all hindrances distractions. Okay, how does there come to be the abandoning of the arisen sensual desire? You've been hearing me talk about it all night. How does there come to be that? Using the 6 R's, right? And how there comes to be the future non-arising of the abandoned sensual desire. This is really simple. How do you stop it from coming up? Stay on your object of meditation. See how simple it is? And you do that with all of the hindrances. So I'm going to skip some of these things, and because I've been talking for a real long time, and I want to get to the conclusion, because this is always a favorite part of mine. If anyone should develop these 4 foundations of mindfulness in such a way for 7 years, one of 2 fruits can be expected for him, either final knowledge here and now, or if there's a trace of craving and clinging left, non-return. They're talking about becoming an arahat or an anagami, let alone for 7 years. If anyone should develop these 4 foundations of mindfulness in such a way for 6 years, 5 years, 4 years, 3 years, 2 years, 1 year, one of 2 fruits can be expected for him. Either final knowledge here and now, or if there is a trace of craving and clinging left, non-return. Let alone 1 year. If anyone should develop these 4 foundations of mindfulness in such a way for 7 months, 6 months, 5 months, 4 months, 3 months, 2 months, 1 month, a half a month, one of 2 fruits can be expected for him, either final knowledge here and now, or if there is a trace of craving and clinging left, non-return. Let alone a half a month. If anyone should develop these 4 foundations of mindfulness in such a way for 7 days, one of 2 fruits can be expected for him, either final knowledge here and now, or if there's a trace of craving and clinging left, non-return. So we're talking about a week. Okay? Can it happen? Yeah. Has it happened? Yeah. I know I'm a lot different than a lot of other monks, because they don't have this kind of experience with following the suttas the way I do. And they will tell you, I ran across a monk not too long ago. He said, it's impossible to do it in this lifetime, to attain Nibbana in this lifetime. It's just impossible. I know, because I practiced for 2 months and nothing happened. Okay, you can have that belief if you want. I'm not going to try to talk you out of it, but I know that that's not right. Now, there was a man that came to me. He was really serious about doing meditation, and he had done a lot of it. So I gave the instructions in loving kindness meditation. The first day of the interviews, he came to me and he said, I had this really fantastic experience and I feel so much joy. And I questioned him in a lot of different ways. And in the first day of the retreat, he became a Sotapanna. And the second day of the retreat, he had fruition. This is pretty amazing. By the end of a 10-day retreat, he had become an anagami with fruition. And I said, it'd probably be a nice idea if you can become a monk now. And he said, well, I have a lot of financial things I have to take care of before I can even consider that. And I said, whenever it happens, you come to America, I'll take care of you. He was really an amazing meditator, and he had done a lot of meditation. And he had developed this mind that whatever the teacher said to do, he was going to do it and follow it as close as the teacher said. And when he came to me and I started saying, you got to use a relaxed step, he took to it. He really grabbed onto that and said, this is what I've been missing. And he was extremely successful. When you get to be an anagami with fruition, you can make a determination that you're going to sit in the cessation of perception, feeling, and consciousness for up to 7 days. Without moving, no heartbeat, no breathing, no consciousness. I've only known one person that's done that, and I ask him, why'd you do it? She gave me a one-word answer. She gave me a one-word answer. I want you to understand that, too. She said, relief. Think about sitting without having any disturbance in your mind at all. No movement of mind's attention at all. And when she came out, I said, were you stiff when you came out? I mean, you'd been sitting for 7 days, you hadn't moved at all. And she said, no, I wasn't stiff at all. It felt like I'd been sitting for, 10 or 15 minutes. And she sat for 7 days? Pretty amazing. Nice. That can happen for you if you follow the directions. And you don't have to believe anything that I say. Experience it for yourself. Teach yourself. You are your own teacher. Don't make a big deal out of having a guru. Okay, they can mislead. But when you take responsibility for yourself, and you see for yourself what your direct practice is doing for you, you're going to have a lot of confidence. And that's one of the things that the Buddha says in one of the suttas, don't believe me, I'm just your guide. I guided you in the right way, and you took the responsibility to do this practice the way it's being taught. You're going to be successful. It's up to you. I can't give you that kind of confidence that I have. And I have no problem with confidence that this works. I know this works. And I have many, many students that are proving that it works. So, your choice. You can do what you want. You can continue on with the way you've been doing meditation for the last however many years. Or you can try something that's a little bit different, that's a little bit of tweaking with the practice of putting that relaxed step in, using the 6 R's. That'll change your entire meditation. I don't really much care what kind of meditation you're doing. If you use the 6 R's and you put that relaxed step in, it's going to change your meditation for the better. Because you're learning how to let go of craving. So, do you have any questions? Yeah.
Bhante, you talked about us reaching a state where we can see a series of consciousness arising and fading. Right? And at that point of time, anicca, dukkha, and anatta doesn't remain a philosophy. It's right in front of you.
Right.
Right? My question to you, Bhante, is till someone reaches that stage where these 3 things are right in front of you, what can I do to strengthen my awareness of anicca, dukkha, and anatta? Moving ahead, because a lot of people say you look at how things are changing in front of you. And my mind says...
That's a surface way of looking at it. The only thing that you can get down to and really see it, and it's going to give you a lot of confidence, is by going through the meditation, and you will be able to see that. If you did a 10-day retreat with me, I have a suspicion that you would be able to see that and go beyond that in 10 days. But it depends on you and how close you follow the directions. How much you're going to smile, how much you're going to have a lighter mind.
You're saying that in 10 days I'll be able to experience?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. My next question is, and I'm sorry if it's been asked before, does the spiritual friend have to be a human?
Yes.
Can it be an animal?
Yes. No, human.
It has to be a human.
Yeah, this is just your training period, okay? You have to train yourself with the human being. It doesn't work if you don't.
Because I have difficulty giving loving kindness to humans, but I find it very effortless to give it to animals.
Then you need to do some forgiveness meditation because you're holding on to grudges.
Okay.
Venerable Bhante, with all respects, I have a slight confusion. Like right now we have spoken about the conclusion of Satipatthana, and what you are teaching about ours is a loving kindness meditation,
right.
And both of them have jhanas in them.
Right.
So this conclusion, stays true for the
works.
loving kindness?
Of course.
Okay.
You still have a body when you're doing loving kindness. You still have feeling. You still have mind. You have mind objects.
Right.
It's not exclusive to just doing mindfulness of breathing.
Okay.
That's the way the Buddha's teaching is a lot. He's not going to be just do this practice and that's it.
Right.
In the Visuddhimagga, it talks about 40 different kinds of meditation that the Buddha taught.
Yeah.
Actually, that's not true. The Buddha taught one kind of meditation and 40 different objects of meditation.
Okay.
Let's see, there's a lot of difference in that. And that kind of meditation that I keep talking about is the 6 R's. It's right effort. You know, the Buddha talked in one of the suttas about the Eightfold Path, and he was always putting right effort as the first part of the Eightfold Path. He wasn't putting right view. He was putting right practice, right effort.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Bhante, a small question.
Yeah.
On your spiritual friend, can you switch personalities? I mean, I feel like having 2 friends.
No. Pick one.
Only one.
Right. See, I wish we had more time. The thing is, this is part of your training period. So you just pick one and stay with them until I tell you to change. And I will tell you to change when you get to a certain level of understanding.
There's markers that happen, and when they happen, you move to a different form of objects, and it changes. There are markers that are very clear, and when we do interviews with you, the interview's very simple. We can spot the markers, even if I don't see you and I'm working online with you. I know when you come to a level, an online teacher knows. By what you're telling us, you're hitting a marker. Then it's time to shift and change what you're doing for the objective. So it's like I told you in the beginning, you're not stuck with forever working with one person. You're training. It's like you're training on a particular kind of bike. As soon as you're proficient on a 3-speed, I'll put you on a 10-speed. And once you're on a 10-speed and you've gone about 180 miles, I'll put you on a 21-speed bike. Okay? And it changes. The objects change, but it's very natural, very connected with nature and with you and your development. It's very smooth the way this changes naturally. We don't go after it. We let it change in your system. Okay?
Anybody else? Your thinking is so exactly precise that you don't have any questions?
Thank you. So I have a question. So you talked about 2 pain, meditation pain and real pain.
Right.
So it can be, you told about us physical pain like we are experiencing in our legs or arms. It can be mental pain also. When I did, so I was facing mental pain. Like the problems in my life which I have done, sorrows in my life. So it can be.
It can be. But there are solutions for that. There are different kinds of meditation. I don't only teach just 6 hours, I also teach forgiveness meditation.
Yeah.
And that, there's a lot of people, when they start doing loving kindness, they have something blocking their heart, some kind of past experience. So we change over to just doing the forgiveness meditation until you can let that go and feel relief. Then you come back to the loving kindness, boy, you take off. You really do good. But there are some emotional things that happen as you're growing up. It can be when you were 2 years old, or it can be last year. It doesn't matter. What matters is your attachment and how to learn how to let that go.
Thank you.
Hello, Bhante ji, there is this question online, and a person wants to know that apart from loving kindness meditation, and you've also mentioned about forgiveness meditation, what are all the other different meditation objects which you teach?
I teach mindfulness of breathing, but my main thing is loving kindness and forgiveness. Why? Because when you do mindfulness of breathing, your progress is much slower. And I like fast progress. I think it's great fun. I like to see people change from being sad or being grumpy to being happy. It makes me happy when I see that. But the mindfulness of breathing, it winds up taking about 6 weeks to get where you would with a 10-day retreat of loving kindness. And most of that is because of your daily activities. You can carry loving kindness around with you and radiate loving kindness while you're doing different things. But if somebody comes up and they say something or do something that distracts you, you don't say when you're doing mindfulness of breathing, stop, I got to breathe for a couple of minutes and center my mind. You don't do that. But you can radiate loving kindness while you're talking with other people. It's real interesting. And you know, I guess the reason that so many people are interested in mindfulness of breathing is because that's what the Buddha did. But you start looking at the suttas and how many times he taught loving kindness. It's real amazing. He taught loving kindness a lot more than he did mindfulness of breathing. And it's so much easier. But because of the Visuddhimagga and the way they tell you to do it, it's not a feeling meditation, it is a mental meditation. And you don't have the same advantages of doing loving kindness in that way. And what the Visuddhimagga is talking about is making 4 wishes. And may all beings be happy, may they be free from mental suffering and physical suffering and be well and peaceful. Okay, you have 4 wishes, but what happens when you do that for a while, you have 10 different directions that you have to do it to, so you're always bouncing around doing the same thing over and over again. It turns into a kind of mantra, and you start thinking about other things while you're doing that. Well, that's not so good. How are you going to get good advantage by having a split mind? And that's what happens a lot with different kinds of meditation. And that's one of the reasons that the Buddha did not teach mantra. Although there's some people that they really like the idea of a mantra. But the Buddha didn't teach a mantra because it's too easy to have a split mind. And there's not a whole lot of real advantage of just doing a mantra. I know that the Hindus are real big on mantras, and that's okay, they can do that, but if they would add the relaxed step with every mantra, now you're talking about changing your meditation, and there would be a major big difference with people's understanding. Now, I have some students that they're really into chanting. Oh, I love my chanting. I chant every day. They come for a retreat, the first thing I tell them, no chanting. Why? Because you're verbalizing. You don't go very deep when you verbalize. You can get into the first jhana, but you can't get into the second jhana if you're verbalizing. Now, I want you to go deeper in your meditation. So that they let go of their chanting, and then they say, when I go home, can I start chanting again? Well, it's up to you whether you want to start chanting again. I don't care. See, I'm not a dictator. I'm not going to tell you what you have to do when you get home. You're grown-ups. You can figure it out for yourself. There's times that Sariputta he'd spend a whole day just being on one jhana. And the lessons he learned by doing that were great. It's up to you. I have some Muslim students, one in particular. Can I go home and pray 5 times a day? I don't care. It's up to you. If you feel comfortable doing that and it doesn't harm anybody else around you, makes you happy, go for it. So I don't want to be a guru. I don't want to be a dictator to you. I want the Buddha to help you as much as he can. And experiment for yourself. If it works, do it. If it doesn't, don't. It's that simple. I want to teach you a method that I know that works, that can be a benefit to you, but you don't have to use it when you get off retreat. Or you can use it. But you have to be responsible for yourself. That's what I really like about Buddhism. You can't blame somebody else for your problems. You get to experiment on your own to see whether it works or not. Just be more aware and pay attention. If it causes you pain or somebody else pain, I'd back off from that. No need. People say, well, when I get off retreat, how much should I sit? Don't ever ask me those kind of questions. Because I'm going to tell you as much as I do. Okay, sit for 5 hours. Well, I can't sit that long. Well, don't ask me those kind of dumb questions then. It's up to you. I have real weird sleeping patterns. Sometimes I'll wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning, wide awake. So I'll sit till 7 or 8. Okay. Sometimes I only sit a couple hours a day. Sometimes I don't sit at all. Depends on what's happening. But all life is meditation. I have one student that he can sit for a really long time. And I talked to him, I said, how long do you stay on your object of meditation? Oh, less than a minute. What? Less than a minute? You know, I have a chicken that can sit that long. He can sit on the egg for even up to 8 hours, not move. But what advantage is there for that chicken? If you're not following the directions the way they're given, it can turn into a waste of time that is not helpful to you or anybody else around you. And it's your choice. One of the teachers that I had for a while was, his name was Buddhadasa. He was a Thai monk. And he was really quite an amazing monk. And he single-handedly changed Buddhism away from Thai magic to actual Buddhism. He was really a great man. He gave really good talks. And I was with him for about 6 weeks, and his English wasn't so good, so we didn't talk a lot, but I learned a lot just by being around him and seeing the way he handled things, the way he did things. That was very nice. The Thai are bowing machines. Okay, they bow at the drop of a hat. They're always bowing. So what he did was he had a very small kuti and had a little porch, and he filled it up with junk. So they couldn't come up on the porch and bow to him. And they didn't know how to handle that. And he would laugh. He thought it was really funny. But he had figured out a lot, and what he did was he took 5 years of just studying the suttas. And then he started teaching people what Buddhism really was, and he changed the face of Buddhism for a long time. They're starting to go back to their Thai magic, which is unfortunate, but everybody has to learn at their own level, whatever that is. Yeah.
So I have one more question.
Okay.
Sir, our spiritual friend can be any famous personality. Like we can take example of any actress, or it should be friend only.
The criterion is, are they alive?
Okay.
Or is it a person of the same sex?
Okay.
Not a member of your family.
Okay.
But I will say this. This happened a few years ago when Mother Teresa was still alive. There were women that were taking Mother Teresa because she was really an inspiring person. But they had trouble identifying with her. It's a little bit easier if you know them personally. But it's up to you. But it's somebody that you have a lot of respect for and you sincerely do wish them well. You think, well, they're not in this country, then they're not going to get it. They do. My teacher was in California and he had a stroke. He was in the hospital. I was in Thailand at the time and I heard that he had a stroke, so I started radiating loving kindness to him a couple hours a day. A few weeks later, I heard that he'd left the hospital and now he was back home. He wrote a letter to me. He never wrote letters to anybody. And he wrote a letter to me thanking me for sending him so much loving kindness. How did he know I was even doing that? A lot of people, they say, well, I'm sending loving kindness to this person. They don't know that I'm doing it. Yeah, they do. They feel it. It doesn't matter the distance away from them, how far away you are from them. I've had students that say, okay, I've sent all this loving kindness to my spiritual friend. Did they feel any different? What? Call them up and ask them. How'd your week go? I had people driving all the way from Florida to where I live is a little over 1,000 miles from where they were. And they drove all the way back just to thank me for teaching them loving kindness and having his friend have so much benefit. So it's not an empty practice. This is for real, folks. It really does work.
Respected Bhante, suppose for these 2 days I have chosen a friend, spiritual friend, and later on suppose I do retreat with you. Can I change it?
I'd rather you stay with the same spiritual friend until I tell you to change.
Okay.
It doesn't take that long. When you come and do a retreat with me, it might be 3 or 4 days before I get you to change to some the family members and that sort of thing. It works out pretty well. Yeah.
Yeah. Bhante, when you were talking about the experience of experiencing Nibbana, and I was a bit curious about the difference between Anagami and an Arahant. I mean, what's separating you from taking the leap to an Arahant if you've experienced
Well,
that?
an Arahant is somebody that... Let me go the other way. An Anagami is someone that's given up 5 hindrances, okay? Doubt, belief that rites and rituals lead to Nibbana, seeing the impersonal nature of things, no more lust arising in their mind ever, no more hatred. An Arahat still has 5 things that can be somewhat distracting for them. Sloth and torpor. They give up sloth and torpor. They give up restlessness. They give up a belief in experiencing another heavenly realm. They give up pride. And they give up ignorance. So they've let go of 5 fetters. And Anagami has let go of 5 fetters, but there are 10 of them. Okay?
Bhante, one question.
Yeah.
What is the difference between metta and this loving kind meditation? Is there any difference?
Same.
Same?
It's just American English instead of Pali. It's the same thing.
And another question, we have to visualize that spiritual friend or just imagine?
Depends on you. If you're good at visualizing, you can, but visualizing is difficult. Because sometimes it's cloudy, sometimes it's fuzzy, sometimes it's like snowy on a television, sometimes it's a far long ways away. I don't want you to spend that much attention on trying to visualize. If you know the person you're sending it to, all you have to do is say their name, and that's enough. That's enough of a visualization. Okay? So you only want about 5% of your attention on visualizing. You don't make it into a big deal if you can't get the visualization the way you want it to be. You don't spend time trying to make it be. You know who you're sending it to. That's enough of a visualization. There are people that it's real easy to visualize. There are people where it's not. I have trouble visualizing. No problem. I still send a lot of loving kindness to, and all I do is I need to know a person's name. That's all. Sometimes people give me pictures of family members that are going through a rough time, or they're having physical problems, and they ask me to send them loving kindness. All I need is their name. It goes to them. Don't ask me how. I don't know how it works. But I know that it does work because I get answers. People call me up and say, thanks for sending loving and kindness to my family member. They're feeling much better now. Or some babies have jaundice. And they ask me to send them loving kindness. I do. And the jaundice goes away very quickly. That's what loving kindness does. And it's not my loving kindness. It is, I'm focusing on loving kindness. It goes where it wants to go. It does what it wants to do. It's not me that's doing it. I just focus on loving kindness, and I kind of sit back and go, well, let's see how this one works. Okay?
Bhanteji, do you hold this loving kind meditation in India also? No. You do. Yeah.
Both of us.
When are you holding? Retreat.
Well, I'm at the end of my India tour. You're going to have to wait till next year for me. She's going to be staying here. She's going to be in Mumbai.
I'm basically making a 10-year commitment to India if I can stay. He's basically like that. I'm basically setting myself up to stay for a good 10 years in India, to set up a center with a school and a meditation and teaching people, lay people, and also monks, if they're willing to come, to learn what it was the Buddha did. Because in India, a lot of the monks, they're self-taught, and they really don't understand almost as much as the people do. They know certain ceremonies, how to do a puja, blessing here and there and stuff like that. But it's a rough situation right now. And so we're trying to, a bunch of upasakas came together and Mumbai, and they want to help to build a center. So now I'm going to there to Mumbai.
Education center.
An education center, so that it's also a temple environment. It'll have a place for monks and a place for nuns. And the hope is that they'll want to learn this, because if they can give this to people, can really get something from them very easily to use in life. And our wish with this tradition has always been that there must be a way to preserve the Sangha through this century. But the internet is making it very difficult, because if this country is a good example, but it's happening in other countries, if the monks aren't trained and they don't understand the principle, why should you support them if you're not getting anything out of it for life? Why should they support the temples? And in a lot of places there's a problem where people are beginning to leave. And India is a wonderful place because it's an egg. It's an egg. And it hasn't rehatched. And it came from here. And it belongs here. Those texts belong here. But many other Buddhist countries have embraced the commentary to the extent that these books are in a trunk in the back of the department or over there across the campus, only in the library for you to go to. See? And I've been to a lot of different universities and been coming over since 2014 to Sri Lanka, to Malaysia. But here, there's something very special, because when you tell a story to a bunch of children, it's a wonderful experience. Because the parents are looking at you just as brightly as the children are, because they haven't heard it yet either. So if we bring a Sunday school program into India, a really good one from the Mahavihara wants to help from Malaysia, and they have a really good Sunday school program, a new one. It's something the parents and the children can learn together. It's really exciting. And people want to help with this, and I'm going to be 70 next month, and I don't want to come over here unless I can keep teaching and keep working with all of you, because this is what it's all about. It needs to come back to where it started, here in India. See?
No.
Well, right now I have to go back to, it's a 10-day program I can teach, but I teach 9-day online retreats, but I don't want to make a schedule for April, and we'll see what happens in May. I have to be sure this time when I come back here I can survive your hot periods, because I almost died last year. I was real sick and I went away to South Korea and they saved me up there. Then I came back. And people say, why are you coming back? because this is where it is. This is where this should happen. And I don't know what will happen. All I can tell you is we're not recruiting anybody. We're not soliciting you or anybody else. We just have something we really want to give back, because it's so simple. I can teach a taxi driver in one trip how to change his life. This is very funny. I've done that. I call it taxi Dhamma. You know, and I have different things teaching different people, you know, when I was in Sri Lanka, and it's just really something that needs to happen here. And I really believe it's going to happen this time, because they asked me not to go somewhere else, back to Malaysia, but to stay here. So we're trying to get this to happen. Yeah. But I can coach you online. I can coach a lot of people online. That's possible. I can coach people online, and I can do the online retreats. I just want to get time to go back to Mumbai and get settled in one spot, so I can have just a desk and a bed and a chair. That's all. You see? Okay? And there are online teachers. We're working really hard to make more and more online teachers, but it takes time. Because to be a good online teacher, you have to go with Bhante to the main retreats, and you have to go through the process of interviewing people. Because if we can't interview you correctly, it doesn't work. We have to be able to understand the flow of the practice, how it develops, and how to coach you the right way. So that's what's going on. Okay?
I had a question. How can we get more information and more instructions on forgiveness meditation?
Yeah, two people have talked to me about forgiveness meditation. I don't know what our schedule is. Tell me. Do you know what it is? I don't know how long.
For tomorrow?
Yeah, what's going on?
There's nothing planned for tomorrow.
There's nothing planned tomorrow? Do you want to do...
Except for lunch.
Except for... Yes, we're disappearing for lunch. Yeah. Do you want to... Are there enough people that want... I don't know what to say here. You need to tell me.
I guess, sister, if you want, if there is sufficient interest and if sister has time, then tomorrow evening maybe we can have a session on, sister can give a talk on forgiveness. Written instructions are available on the website. And I think there are YouTube videos also with the instructions.
Yeah, there's some. I noticed we didn't put a lot of things connecting you on this paper. Maybe we can print something tomorrow that will take you, and you can start your own forgiveness meditation by going online to one particular link that hooks you into 6 talks that he gave on forgiveness meditation, and then also, there's 6 different videos that are there for forgiveness meditation, and then also David has set up a 5-day retreat that you can do for yourself. That's online. That are forgiveness videos that are good. They're pretty good.
So as a first step, maybe we can just share it on your mailing list, if that's okay. Or your WhatsApp group, and then people can access it from there.
I don't know what people want to do tomorrow. I don't even know what day it is.
That was Monday.
Tomorrow's Monday, so people are going to be working. So this was a weekend. See, that's what happens to us all the time. Okay, we don't think about time.
I thought it was Friday.
Okay. That's just the way it is when it's normal for monks. Anyway, so I don't know if you have some time that this can happen tomorrow. Maybe we can have one meeting that's just about forgiveness, and we can get you started with it.
That's screwed up my schedule. I thought it was Friday. I really did. Oh well.
It's like we're back on the mountain. You just keep working and you don't even know when Friday comes or any other day. Okay. So it's up to you guys. How many people are interested in forgiveness? How many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,
8.
8 people? Yeah, see, it's worth to do it. Do you want to do it? Tomorrow, you tell me what time it is. I'm very flexible. I'm in a hotel. If it's 5 minutes away, I come over here. It's fine. I don't know. It's up to you guys. What time?
Given it's a working day, probably evening will work better.
So what time? What time in the evening?
5 o'clock. Just can you raise your hands? Does 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock? So how many for 6?
6 o'clock. 6 will be better. So what?
Let's go for 6 because it takes time to leave work and this place is a little off.
So 6 to 8 o'clock, and we'll try to put together something we can print out for them maybe tomorrow, maybe?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
We can do that. Okay?
Also, we have a book on forgiveness that is on the...
Okay, on the internet, if you go to... let me put it on the board. On the internet, if you go to the home website, you can... Let's get rid of this. Okay.
All of the books that I've written are free.
Yeah.
That you can go to the website.
But we are working on figuring out how to print them again over here. We're in the process of trying to figure out where we can print them here so we have them more available too.
Can you find this capsule set that you have to make?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. What was it?
That capsule thing that you have made.
What is she talking?
This was the capsule. I just erased it. Okay, but if you want to take a picture of the capsule, you could probably take a picture of this page in our training book, that we use. Okay, you can take a picture of it. That gives you most of the outline of that. What you do? Jeez. I'm strong. I am strong. Okay. You go to Dhammapada.org. You go to teaching. On the nav bar, you'll have a menu that comes up, and then you choose Dhamma Talk Library. Oh, you know what? You could just go to, one thing you can do is you can just, there's a search engine there on it. You can ask for forgiveness. It'll probably take you right to it, won't it? Will it work that way, Sarab?
I'm just actually navigating.
Okay, so you go to dhammasuka.org and then you go to teaching. If you want to go in the Dhamma Talk, that's a wild place, though, to go to send you first. I'd rather you went on the front page and looked for forgiveness instructions, and there's a link. And actually, I'm going to show you something. The instructions for the forgiveness is in here too. We can print these out maybe tomorrow for 8 people. Is that possible? We can do that? Yep. To print them out? Okay. For the instructions for the forgiveness that are in here. And then what you need to do is, I think there's a link on this. Wait a minute, let me look. No, it's not. It has to be an edited one. Okay. Well, I can find it for you tonight, and then I can make sure it's on here when we print this out. I'm sorry. It's only 2 pages of instructions, so we can print this up for everybody tomorrow night, and I'll give you the link that takes you to the 6 videos that Bhante did. I know they're right on the front page. You can click over to them, and if you go to the website and you try to go find the forgiveness instruction under the teachings, okay, you'll see a link for the forgiveness. The forgiveness is right now, and you're in a good position because we didn't teach you the interview questions, so you don't have to change them. But the only difference with the forgiveness is you don't use the 6 R's for everything that comes up, because the forgiveness has these 3 little sections in it where you forgive yourself, and somebody pops up, you move over and you forgive them, and then they forgive you. It's a very interesting circle that happens, this process, the way it works. So when somebody pops up, you don't want to use right effort and just let everything go that pops up, because if you do, you'll never get to level 2 with the other person. And occasionally that happens with a student, but it works pretty well. This really does work well. You just have to submit yourself to, this is going to be your primary practice for a period of time, to try to play it all the way through, because you start forgiving someone, and then once something comes up and you start to forgive that person that pops up, then you're like opening the gate. And I had one student started to forgive one person, and he had 11 people pop out right afterwards. Click, 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 click. Because once the gates open, game's up. They're just going to fall out, and you just forgive them, forgive them, forgive them. And the idea is to go through until nobody else pops up. So that could take a few days. That could take a week. Ask him. He did it for a couple years. I did it for 6 months. And then you can always, once you've done it, you have this little tool that you can keep in your life's little toolbox. And anytime something happens that you need to forgive, you use it. And it's letting it go, letting it go. If a big one's in there that you're working on, you can't expect to just let it go and have it permanently gone. It might come back again, pop up again, and keep working on it. But each time it pops up, it gets weaker, you see? And then eventually it's gone. It falls away. Okay? Yeah?
Just one last input, that Googling for Dhamma Sukha forgiveness takes you to the perfect page.
Okay, so Google. For what?
Dhamma Sukha space forgiveness.
Okay, good. Dhamma Sukha. What? Slash? Space with an underline?
No. Space bar.
Oh, space bar like that?
Yeah.
Okay, dash.
People hit space on the space bar.
Space. Oh, space. Okay, and then what?
Forgiveness.
Okay, that's going to get you there.
You get the PDFs, the YouTube playlists, and everything else.
By the way, the books are they're available in PDF. They're free, and they're available by PDF. So most of them you can pull down. So you have a collection of them. You have...
all of our books are.
Yeah. And he puts them up on... You can get them through Amazon, too, but it's like the cost of mailing them to you. I had a funny story about somebody who a friend of ours one time really wanted the book, the Majjhima Nikaya. She's very wealthy, and somebody took her to a bookshop. She managed to buy that book for $400. Did you know that? Yeah. She told me, I got the book. I said, how much you pay for it? $400. Oh my gosh, I couldn't believe it. A new one from publishing company is about $52. But always remember, if you order this book, The Secret, always get a used one. Because the used ones, lots of times you'll even get them completely wrapped up. Nobody ever even uncovered them. They got them so they could put them in their library and say they had it. Or they read the infamous first sutta in that book. And then they said, I'm never going to go to that book again, because it shouldn't be there. It's kind of funny. It has hundreds of sections in it, and that they're supposed to be 30 or 40 sections usually. So that's about it. Okay?
The easiest way to read this book is just open up to see what the sutta says.
It's like a
random
astrology.
You're always going to get some benefit from
it's like astrology. Open it up. It's kind of that way. Okay.
Can we get a soft copy of this one?
A soft copy of that one. Yeah, I guess so. It's in editing again.
That's a retreat booklet.
It's a retreat booklet. Yeah, it's one of the Yeah, you could. I have.
Make copies of it.
No, don't make copies of it, because I don't know which one that is. But if I look at it, I have to do an editing on it right now for the last one we used, because there's a bunch of mistakes and links missing. So I want to fix it. Yeah, but the better thing to do is probably to go to the Guide for Tranquil Wisdom Insight Meditation, Bhante. That one's up there, the Guide for Tranquil Wisdom Insight Meditation, and then the Forgiveness booklet, okay? And there is a metta booklet, but the metta booklet is incorporated in the guide, because we keep rolling the stuff over into different books, because it's the basic stuff, there's some good things in there. Meditation is life, life is meditation, the forgiveness booklet. Moving Dhamma is good, but I wouldn't get moving Dhamma till you did one retreat online or something. But after that, it has a whole retreat in it, and it has commentary, but you do a retreat once with somebody, yeah. And then
some of David's books were shipped here. They're at my uncle's place, and I can arrange to leave a few copies here, and people can pick them up from here.
That one's Journey to Nibbana that David put together.
Yeah.
Journey to Nibbana, right? Path to Nibbana. Sorry, Path to Nibbana. Okay? That one's the pretty recent one. Okay.
That's taken from my talks.
Okay. Anybody have any more questions? Really? Okay. Okay. So do we want to say blessing?
Yeah.
Share merit?
May suffering ones be suffering free, and the fear-struck fearless be. May the grieving shed all grief, and may all beings find relief. May all beings share this merit that we have thus acquired for the acquisition of all kinds of happiness. May beings inhabiting space and earth, Devas and Nagas of mighty powers, share this merit of ours. May they long protect the Buddha's dispensation. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.